The Empire has been under the constant threat of magic beasts for 1,000 years, with the only hope being that the borders are protected by the legendary machine gods known as Unbreakers. Becoming emperor is considered the highest honor, but only those who pilot a machine god have the right to claim the throne. The Empire itself consists of 9 states, collectively known as the Eterna Empire. A story unfolds along the Empire's borders, where a gruesome massacre has taken place. Bodies lie scattered across the ground, their lives violently stolen. Among the carnage, a lone survivor writhes in agony, pleading for his life. He insists he was merely following orders, but his desperation finds no sympathy. Dusty Miller, a butler, stands over him, cold and unyielding. He reminds the man that they are all professional killers, fully aware of the risks. Seeing no other way out, the man suggests that he too should get in on the action. If someone truly wants to secure their future, they should try killing a machine god's pilot. After all, such a feat would grant them everything they could ever desire. Dusty is repulsed by such a suggestion. It is the Unbreakers who keep the Empire safe from the innumerable beasts surrounding it. Without another word, Dusty strikes in with a butter knife, as if staying true to his butler occupation. As the dust settles, he surveys the blood-stained ground and reflects on the Empire's precarious existence. He considers his own role in this brutal world, his duty to eliminate the parasites drawn to the machine gods like moths to a flame. The knife is firmly placed into the chest guard of the man. He confirms the rumors that have been circulating that the Grim Reaper butler himself is protecting one of these divine machines. The thought barely holds his interest, and with one final push of the knife, the man is no more. Before long, the head butler arrives, commanding his footmen to clean up the scene. They obey without hesitation, moving swiftly to dispose of the bodies. Dusty, watching from the sidelines, remains detached. He questions the ridiculous but widely held belief that anyone who pilots a machine god can become emperor. To him, such claims are nothing but foolish nonsense. The butler, however, has a different perspective. He explains that while the machine gods ultimately belong to the emperor, 6 of them have been entrusted to the great families that guard the empire's borders, so it is not so surprising that they are rewarded with the chance to succeed the emperor. However, this is not something a person such as him should ever dream of achieving, since he is nothing but a hooligan. These words fall on deaf ears as Dusty has already stepped aside, unimpressed. The workers nearby take note of his indifference, speculating that he may not even be listening. They call out to him for assistance, but he dismisses them outright, since he is too busy awestruck by the magnificence of the fight. No matter the case, a title-less outcast like him has no reason to concern himself with such matters. His apathy shifts, however, when his gaze falls upon the magic beasts, the creatures that lurk beyond the borders. Unlike the politics of the Empire, they fascinate him. He watches with keen interest as a dragon-like monster erupts into chaos, tearing through its surroundings with unrestrained fury. The beast bellows, declaring its intent to annihilate all, but the Unbreaker makes sure to point its mouth towards the sky in order to protect the citizens standing behind it. The spectacle captivates the onlookers, who murmur in admiration, their eyes fixed on the young warrior responsible for the display, all the while cheering for the young Endebar Lord when he eventually destroys the beast's magic core. As Dusty moves through the scene, a man offers him food, urging him to take a bite. He accepts with a nod of gratitude and begins eating. At that moment, a lively voice calls out to him. Cesius Endebar arrives, brimming with excitement, eager to hear his thoughts on his battle. Although a bit shaken from the suddenness, Dusty acknowledges his presence, referring to him as the young master. He invites Dusty as well as the rest of the crowd to a party, cheerfully announcing that the festivities are for everyone. Dusty, all too eager to drink, readily agrees. Just as he lifts the cup to his lips, a firm hand stops him. Aura, Cesius' younger sister, her expression disapproving, reminds him that they are still underage. If she must refrain from drinking, then so must he. Cesius turns to face her younger sister, greeting her with unabashed enthusiasm. The crowd continues to murmur respectfully, praising her as the highest-ranking mage despite her young age. Aura ignores them, focusing solely on her task, which is making sure to wipe Dusty's face clean of the blood and grime. Dusty, meanwhile, finds himself at the center of an old memory. Dusty had reminded her that their father had already made that decision for her, but she had looked at him with unwavering determination and insisted that he should be the one to pilot a machine god to become emperor himself. That way she can fulfill both promises. He had refused, yet when her eyes welled with tears, something inside him had faltered. It had been unfair, he thought, for her to use such a tactic. In the end, he had relented, assuring her that he would do it, that he would become a pilot and marry her. Her face had lit up with joy, sealing their promise. But time had a way of unraveling such childhood dreams. Now, as Dusty watches her interact with the others, he notices the way people whisper about them. Aura catches his gaze and demands an explanation. He jokingly signals for Mercy, but she responds with a cold smirk. Mercy, it seems, is not an option. The scene shifts to the magic beast walls of Perry's where Aura and Dusty arrive. Warm greetings from the waitresses welcome them inside. They acknowledge the hospitality, but the maids aren't so kind towards him. After he questions what is going on, their response is laced with frustration as they tell him about the state of his room, how it was completely buried under a mountain of dirty laundry. One of the maids, her patience long since worn thin, scolds him with a firm warning not to let it happen again. He lowers his head, mumbling an apology, but the whole scene amuses Aura. She comments that home is probably the only place where a butler gets scolded by maids. Then, turning to them, she asks if they can let it slide just this once, as a personal favor. The maids exchange glances before sighing in reluctant agreement. If it's for her, they say, they'll overlook it. With exaggerated drama, they tease Dusty, declaring that his life has just been spared. Dusty seizes the moment, throwing himself at Aura with mock gratitude, pretending to sob in relief. She immediately pushes him away, unimpressed, and tells him to stop being ridiculous. Then, as if shaking off the absurdity of the moment, she shifts the topic, asking where One-sama is. The maids inform her that he arrived earlier and has gone straight to the study. With a nod, she decides to check on him. Dusty, regaining his composure, insists that he also needs to see the young master. Aura suggests they go together. As they leave, the maids watch them go, whispering among themselves with barely concealed amusement. Inside the study, Cesius is waiting, a photo frame in hand. He lifts it proudly, revealing a signed picture of Ruri-chan, the famous idol. His grin stretches wide as he announces his victory in obtaining such a treasure. Aura, unimpressed, rolls her eyes and mutters something under her breath about the men in this household. Cesius, however, lights up with admiration, genuinely thanking Dusty for making this possible. Dusty waves it off, calling it a pleasure between gentlemen of similar taste. His excitement grows contagious as he recounts the experience of meeting Ruri-chan in person, and marvels at how adorable she was in real life before dramatically holding up his hand, the very one that shook hers. With absolute conviction, he vows never to let anyone else shake it, not even Cesius. Before he can revel in his theatrics for too long, Aura's patience finally snaps. She reaches over, grabs Dusty's ear, and yanks hard. He yelps, flailing in protest, while Cesius watches with mild amusement. Without missing a beat, he remarks that Dusty can be oddly oblivious at the strangest moments. Aura lets go, her irritation evident, and without another word, she exits the room. As she disappears down the hallway, Cesius sighs, then turns to Dusty, suggesting they change locations now that his sister is gone. With an air of exasperation, he notes just how strict she can be. Shifting the conversation, Cesius pulls out an idol book and begins flipping through it, casually remarking that outside the mansion, he plays the role of the perfect family head. Dusty listens, his usual playfulness fading as he begins leading into something serious. He takes out the pistol in front of them. With the enthusiasm of a child with a new toy, Cesius picks it up, expertly loading it while musing aloud that such a weapon is far from ordinary. Dusty, in contrast, remains grim. His mind works quickly, piecing things together. The presence of such a firearm leaves little doubt on whoever is smuggling these weapons. His voice is certain as he declares that the Endebar branch house is behind everything. Cesius exhales in frustration, running a hand through his hair. The branch house is proving to be a nuisance, stirring up conflict over succession rights. He mutters that he isn't even after the throne for himself, it's all for Aura. Leaning back, Cesius speaks with quiet certainty. He explains that once the new emperor ascends the throne, the usual tradition is to take as his wife the strongest magic user. And in the entire empire, there is no one more powerful than Aura. He wants Aura to live freely without constraints, and the only way to ensure that is to secure his position as heir and, eventually, emperor. Dusty listens intently, but then, without warning, Cesius drops an entirely different kind of bomb. With the same casual air as before, he suggests that Dusty and Aura should simply elope. The statement lands like a thunderclap. Dusty's expression shifts instantly to shock, staring at Cesius as if he's lost his mind. He demands to know why he would even say something like that. Even worse, he doesn't stop there. He reminds Dusty that in the Empire, love between nobles and commoners is strictly forbidden. But with a dismissive wave, he adds that he personally finds such rules idiotic. Then, with a knowing smirk, he brings up Dusty's old promise. Dusty instantly tries to downplay it, insisting that back then, he and Aura were just friends. Cesius isn't buying it. Pressing further, he outright states that regardless of the past, Dusty loves her now. The accusation sends Dusty into flustered silence, unable to form a proper response. Grinning like a cat who caught a particularly entertaining mouse, Cesius declares himself the love master and insists that he knows best. Dusty, Snapping out of his daze, shoots back that Cesius has zero real dating experience, making his self-appointed title completely meaningless. Offended, Cesius calls the remark unfair and in a desperate attempt to prove himself, pulls out a Dusty's idol notebook. Flipping through it, he gestures triumphantly at his findings. Every girl listed seems to resemble Aura. Dusty tries to ignore the observation, smoothly shifting topics to something more pressing. Tomorrow, everything must go perfectly. The contract with the machine god, striking a deal with the machine god lets them take on its true face, as well as legitimizes one's claim to the throne. The date assigned for the contract is tomorrow, so he asks what Dusty thinks the Branch family would do. They will attack tonight. And then, as if on cue, a bunch of assassins from the Branch family are standing in the courtyard. They are easy pickings for the servants and Aura. Cesius is a bit disappointed as he was expecting something more exciting, but his wishes are soon granted. The mansion shakes with the force of an unexpected assault. A massive dragon erupts from the carnage, its enormous shadow swallowing the mansion whole. Its crimson eyes gleam with pure malice as it lets out a deafening roar that sends shockwaves through the battlefield. Then, with a single swipe of its tail, it obliterates an entire section of the courtyard, sending debris flying like shrapnel. The debris blocks the way to the machine god as well. Dusty, standing in defense of the mansion, barely dodges the beast's onslaught, but not unscathed. Blood trickles down his arm as he tries to steady himself. He fights against the poison coursing through his veins, but his vision is fading, his strength slipping away. But he refuses to let it consume him. His breathing is ragged. His hands tremble. He sees his friends, his family, risking everything. And something ignites within him. Memories flash through his mind. How he was saved by these people, and how they gave meaning to his life. He remembers his promise to Aura, and later how the head butler explains to Dusty, with an apologetic voice, that the machine god belongs to the Endebar family. A commoner has no right to pilot it. Dusty meets his gaze without flinching. He understands. Instead of backing down, his resolve hardens. He asks the old butler to teach me how to fight. He had trained for this. Every hour of pain, every drop of sweat, it was all for this. But now the poison is threatening to rip it all away. So he makes his choice. With a sharp inhale, he raises his trembling blade. Without hesitation, he slices through his own poisoned arm. He grits his teeth and pushes forward, his body fueled by sheer, unrelenting willpower with only the thought of protecting his masters. A shadow looms. A monstrous tentacle bursts from the battlefield, whipping through the air like a vengeful god's wrath. It crashes through the mansion's defenses, splintering walls and shattering stone as if they were made of paper. Then he sees them, Cesius and Aura. Falling. The mansion collapses behind them. Without thinking, Dusty throws himself forward with everything he has left. His legs burn. His remaining arm strains, but he catches them before they hit the ground. He asks if they are all right, his voice breathless but steady. Both of them, still stunned, nod. Cesius thanks Dusty, but Aura is the one who notices his missing arm. Her breath catches. She yells at him to take better care of himself. Dusty, ever the same, just grins. It's just a scratch. He jokes, brushing it off. Extending his hand, he helps her up. Then another unexpected tentacle strikes. The force is monstrous. The impact rips through Dusty's body. Everything slows. Aura watches in horror as Dusty's lower half is torn away. Her world shatters. She stares, unable to breathe. Both siblings come to his defense. Dusty, despite his state, remains conscious. His breath is shallow, his vision flickering. But he forces his lips to move, asking them to go while the monster is still busy with him. They refuse to listen. When he sees Aura crying over him, he can only be mesmerized by her beauty. He prays God. Please, protect them. The head of the machine god lights up inside the garage and launches itself out. It strikes the beast with such force that it incapacitates the monster. Cesius was told the machine god only moved when it had chosen an individual. His initial shock fades into understanding. This can only mean one thing. He calls out urgently. Inside the machine god's cockpit, Dusty stirs. His body is weak, but his resolve remains. His voice is faint but unyielding. They're in the machine god's cockpit. Right now, Cesius wastes no time and explains briefly that this is probably fate. Aura is holding back the magic beasts with her seal magic. But it won't last forever. They need to act now. Then turning to Dusty with a serious expression, he delivers his final decision. He will have Dusty make the contract. Dusty's mind races. He knows what this means. If he makes the contract, then Cesius can't become emperor. Cesius made it clear that he never even wanted to become one in the first place. His only goal was protecting his sister. He has a plan. Dusty will instead form the contract, as doing so heals all wounds. He orders him to become emperor and marry his sister. Dusty nods. Understood, Master. It is finally dawn as the sun is starting to rise. The contract process begins. The instructions are clear. One must extend their wish along with their blood. And so Dusty makes his wish. Power to protect the people he loves. The machine runs a quick scan. His body begins to mend. Flesh knits together. Strength returns. Just as Aura is unable to hold off any longer, the contract is complete. The machine transforms into the most suitable form for the contractor. Each part is being made separately, and finally the coffin lid unlocks. With the shadow-type form, he is ready to fight. With a single powerful punch, he brings the beast to the ground. The servants suddenly notice something. Their eyes widen in alarm. They frantically gesture toward the battlefield, trying to get attention. Aura notices that the machine is completely different. Cesius nods, his sharp gaze locked on the towering figure. With a smile, he exclaims, "That's Dusty Machine God." Dusty, still engaged in battle, glances at his machine's interface before smirking. "Ha, a shadow-type machine god. I'd say it suits me. The same tentacles that caused him severe injury last time have begun to wrap around him." The battlefield remains a war zone of chaos, the clash of metal and energy shaking the earth beneath them. Dusty, piloting his machine god, launches forward with inhuman speed, narrowly dodging the monstrous beast's incoming strike. A streak of purple energy slices through the air as he counters, his machine's massive arms smashing into the beast's torso. The impact sends shockwaves tearing through the area, uprooting debris and leaving deep fissures in the ground. The monster shrieks, its grotesque form writhing as it regains balance. Then, with an enraged roar, it retaliates. Its limbs extend unnaturally black tendrils, lashing out at Dusty like whips. The head butler arrives and warns that they must get away from the battle and quickly retreat towards the city. Understood. But even as they drive away, Aura's mind lingers on the battlefield. Her hands clench into fists as she stares at the gigantic entities fighting it out, watching the distant flashes of battle. Will Dusty be okay on his own, she murmurs. Cesius, seated beside her, remains calm. He'll be fine. Voice filled with certainty. He's not alone. Aura looks up, confused. Cesius takes a deep breath before revealing. Dusty has signed a contract. He now has an AI navigator. Aura's eyes widen. Meanwhile, back on the battlefield, Dusty's pairing process with the AI navigator is nearly complete. The machine hums as streams of data flood his vision, feeding him critical combat insights. His eyes flicker in awe as the machine god's systems synchronize with his own instincts. The moment the process finalizes, the AI navigator materializes in his interface, staring directly at him. Dusty freezes, his face turning red. He stammers. The AI navigator smirks, crossing her arms. He never expected to be met with such a beauty. Dusty stares at the AI navigator in shock, unable to hide his surprise as he demands to know what she is. Without giving him time to process, she calmly states that she is the AI navigator and isn't afraid to show her disdain in being paired with a commoner. Before he can respond, she reminds him that he is still in the middle of a fight, addressing him as Kiddo. Without hesitation, she declares that she will teach him how to properly use a machine god. Suddenly, the lock releases and the transformation begins. Dusty watches in astonishment as his left hand grows enormous appendages and gears, expanding, ready for battle. The AI navigator observes the process and remarks that it went smoothly. Meanwhile, Aura and her party are watching the entire scene unfold, breathless. Cesius commands everyone to grab tightly onto something. A shockwave rips through the air, shaking the ground beneath them. The sheer force of Dusty's attack leaves everyone speechless. The monster is sent flying with brutal speed, crashing through the sky and landing far beyond the city, deep into the plains. The servant, overwhelmed by the destructive power, exclaims that machine gods are incredibly strong. Dusty, equally astonished by his own strength, nods in agreement. He can hardly believe what just happened. Aura watches in stunned silence, noting that the monster has been flung so far it's now a speck on the horizon. Cesius, however, remains cool, his expression unchanged. It wasn't just raw power, he says, eyes narrowing. No matter how strong a machine god is, a punch should only be capable of damaging the beast's body. On the other side, Dusty and the AI navigator are seated inside the massive machine, the cockpit humming with energy. Dusty, still processing the raw power of his attack, mutters that the monster flew farther than he expected. Was it his imagination, or did the monster feel lighter? He looks over at the AI navigator, waiting for an explanation. The AI navigator just lightly laughs while she observes Dusty. Its body, Cesius says, suddenly became weightless. It must be the effect of a unique skill. Dusty's eyes widen. A unique skill. The AI navigator, sensing his confusion, begins explaining the concept of contract skills. After completing a contract, not only does a machine god change their appearance, but they also get a unique skill. However, she suddenly stops mid-sentence, her gaze turning incredulous. She sighs and turns to Dusty, raising an eyebrow. She asks, "You don't understand basic concepts like this." Dusty has two huge matters to deal with currently, so he's having difficulty understanding. He needs to learn by doing it, he says. With no more time to argue, the battle continues. Dusty feels an undeniable difference in the weight of the machine. His movements are faster and more fluid. "Wait, is the mecha lighter?" he asks, confused. The AI navigator confirms it, her voice steady. It is. He's unlocked something new. Dusty grins, the excitement rushing back into his veins. He kicks the monster with the momentum he has built. It is this type's unique skill, weight manipulation. He can freely change the weight of this unit as well as anything else he touches with his left hand. Suddenly, a flicker of insight that dawns on him. He looks at the AI navigator. "Can you make things heavier too?" The AI navigator's eyes widen in approval and a smile forms. "Exactly. Now use it in combat." Without hesitation, Dusty channels the skill, his thoughts focused. The world shifts around him and the ground trembles beneath the machine god's feet. Dusty charges forward with newfound power. He lightens his weight first and jumps, becoming practically airborne. With his weight so light, he's moving like lightning. The watching crowd is stunned into silence. As he reaches the highest point he can, the beast sends out its tentacles to attack him. He plans on rushing full force ahead and ending this fight. The eye doubles his weight, and then with a final earth-shattering boom, Dusty smashes the magic beast's core. As the dust settles, the AI navigator watches him, her expression unreadable. "Looks like it's over," she comments coolly. Dusty, catching his breath, smirks. "So if you stop calling me a novice." The AI navigator looks at him, shaking her head. Not yet. His style is still too amateurish, sloppy even. Dusty sighs dramatically. She is so strict. Elsewhere, Aura stands watching with admiration. She calls out to Dusty, her voice carrying across the field. Hearing her, Dusty's face lights up. The head butler warns Aura to be cautious as it's dangerous. The AI navigator watches this exchange and is intrigued. "Those people are the nobles of today?" she asks, her voice curious. Dusty smiles warmly. "They're my precious friends." The AI navigator raises an eyebrow, her tone turning cold. She asks if he is fooled by those noblemen. Dusty freezes, his face falling into confusion, his eyes narrowing. The AI navigator meets his gaze, a knowing glint in her eyes. Aura stands amidst the chaos, confusion clouding her mind. She looks around, struggling to grasp what's happening. Dusty doesn't understand what the AI is trying to say. She points to his symptoms. Nosebleed, shortness of breath, tiredness. He should have figured out by now. It seems he really was not told anything. The machine god uses the pilot's life force as fuel. Everything feels too surreal. The AI snaps at him again, its frustration palpable. Dusty is shocked hearing such damning words. If the life force is used too much, the soul is absorbed into the machine god. That is how the AI ended up. Nobles don't like having their souls imprisoned and force it onto the commoners instead. Dusty is shocked that Cesius was lying to him all this time. The AI doesn't like working with people who aren't aware of their situation, so she urges him to break the contract, to leave before it's too late. But Dusty's voice cuts through, calm yet filled with a strange curiosity. Does this thing have any ultimate moves? The AI eyes him warily, questioning his motives. She commands why he is smiling. Dusty's grin widens. "It's a guy thing," he says. And though Aura doesn't understand, the fire in his eyes speaks volumes. He's ready for whatever comes next. But the creature they're up against isn't so easily defeated. It's monstrous, impossibly powerful, and it just keeps coming. It keeps moving even after its core has been shattered. The crack in its head widens, and a second crack sends a chill through the air. Cesius and Aura freeze in shock. The eye recognizes it immediately. A high-grade magic beast, far beyond anything they can handle. It shoots its projectiles towards him, shattering his left arm entirely. "Run," the AI urges, a note of panic creeping into its voice. But Dusty won't back down. His resolve is unshaken. He declares he is not leaving. "I'm here to protect this mansion." The AI can't understand. Why is he willing to risk everything for the nobles? But Dusty is unwavering. He asks her again if there's a special move, a way to turn the tide. The AI hesitates but gives him the information he needs. It's called the Dead End skill. If he is ready to die, it asks, his voice serious as a single use costs 10 years of life force. Is he prepared to give everything for this fight? Dusty's grin never wavers. A strange calmness takes over him. He says if he is being tricked, if this is all a lie, he will be the happiest man alive. His words are bizarre, but his resolve is clear. And then it happens. The shadow of the machine god looms larger, darker, its presence overwhelming. From its depths, a massive hand rises, casting a shadow of the battlefield. The beast trembles, its movements jerky and unnatural, but it's still alive. It tries blasting the hand, but without any effect. Dusty takes a deep breath, readying himself. The air crackles with energy, thick with the promise of something momentous. The power surges through Dusty like a tidal wave, overwhelming in its intensity. He grabs the monster and crushes it completely like a bug.
Here I am, know it's been a while. I was in denial about my love. Here I stand,